Go back here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. So you said you removed something because that's when it cut.
I had to remove the prompts when we ask for the input
Okay,
because,
awesome.
yeah, but I think that's it really. Okay, so can I start?
Yes, go ahead, ma'am. Let's go.
Cool. From line 1 and 2, we're basically just including the headers that we'll need to be able to run the file, run the code. And we are using the vector data structure, so that's why it's also included. From there, line 4 and 5, we are defining n and k to be constants in the code because we're basically going to be writing n and k quite a bit. So to write n in and 999 or 333 is going to be quite time consuming, I guess. So we just define it from the beginning, 9 being the size of the grid and k being the size of the subgrid. As we moved on to line 10, which is the isValid function. The isValid function basically checks whether the number can be inserted in a row, a column, and the subgrid. So we start with the row, we iterate through each row and check whether the number that we want to insert is in the row or not. If it is in the row, we return false. Then we move on to the column, checking whether the number is in the column. And if it isn't in the column, then we also return false. As we move on from that, we are checking whether the number is in the subgrid. The subgrid being the square root of the size of the grid. So if our grid is 9, then the subgrid will be 3. So I initialize R and C, declare them and initialize them to be basically the subgrid size, or how do I explain this? To be able to get to which number in the row, or which index rather, yes, which index in the row and column that we want to, we say the row size minus the row divided by k, which is the subgrid size. And then we check iterating through each row and column in the subgrid, so being 3 and 3, to check if the number is inside the subgrid. If it is, we also return false. And then the whole function overall, if the number is valid. If the number is valid that we want to insert, then we return true. So that basically just checks whether we can enter the number into the grid. Our next function is the print function, iterating through each column and row to print out each cell or each number in the board or grid. So that's what this function does, and these for loops do. Moving on to the solve function. I'll just get my notes back up. So firstly, we initialize the row and the column to be -1. Just because we can't use 0 because 0 represents an empty cell, and the 1 to 9 also represent the numbers that will be inside the grid. So we use -1. And then we set the is empty to be false to keep track of whether the grid is empty or not. And when it is empty, we say, when it is empty, basically when it's not empty, the Sudoku is solved. So as we move on, the nested for loops over here are used to find empty cells. So we go through each column and each row over here. And if the number in each row or column, so if a number is equal to 0, then the row, we initialize that to I, and the column, we initialize that to J, as they were -1 before. So then we do find an empty cell and it is now true. So we break the function because we have found what we need and we are able to place a number in there. And then line 60. If is empty is true, then we break as we said over here. And if it is not empty, we return true, and then we're able to carry on with the process of placing the numbers inside the grid. So we move on to line 69, which is a for loop for basically placing the numbers in the grid. So we check if the number that we want to place from 1 to 9 is valid. And if it is valid, as we saw in the function that we used, then we place the number inside the grid. Then this if statement recursively solves the rest of the grid. Sorry. It recursively solves the rest of the grid. So each time it calls the function again and it solves itself. It's basically the function solving itself within itself. And if we have made a mistake in the function, then we are able to backtrack and I guess, yeah, backtrack and move the last move that we did. We're able to undo that and then start again. And the entire function does return false. So now we move on to implementation in the main function. In the main function, we declare a vector. This vector, it's a 2D vector or rather a matrix, which represents the grid and it represents the columns and the rows within the grid being in, so 9 and 9. And for each column and row from 0 to 9, not including 9, we enter, well, the user enters each number that will be within the grid. So then if the grid is solved, we call upon the solve function. And if it is solved, then we call upon the print function, which will print the solved Sudoku function. Else, the no solution response will be given if the Sudoku function, or rather the grid is not solved and cannot be solved, and the entire function returns 0. So this is basically a 9x9 program that solves Sudoku functions being inputted by a user using zeros as empty cells. Thank you.
Awesome. Well done. Good presentation. Everything is answered there. So would you run it for me? I just want to
Oh, should
see
I
you
run
run
it?
it. Yeah, and then put the values in.
Mistakenly stopped sharing the screen. So let me do that again.
You know,
Let me just get
sometimes a code is there and then you try run it on the day and then it doesn't work.
yeah.
So so you have to just keep on running it, enjoy it. Yeah.
Let me just get the input file out. Stop opening. Oh, there we go. Why is it taking so long this time?
Yeah, I think your computer is busy processing this video, the graphic card.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Control V. There we go.
Awesome, it solved it.
Yes,
Yay.
solved.
Yeah, so now
Yay.
you're happy. So you say you got 100%. I'm happy with you. And yeah, if you need anything else, you'll just let me know.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
My mom was saying that we should discuss how you can help me moving forward because I
Okay.
do have upcoming tests and exams. So how do you usually work?
We could do the same thing. I just don't know when you are available because mostly during the week. Do you want it for weekends or during the week?
We can do weekends, I think.
Yeah, I think weekends are fine with me because during the week I teach at the university. So we could, you see, yesterday was a Saturday. We could either do a Friday evening, you introduce the topic, and then Saturday we go over it, we solve it, blah, blah, blah. We have the solution. Sunday you do the presentation kind of thingy.
Okay.
And yeah, we make the sessions an hour, max two. And then
Okay.
if it's a difficult topic, then we'll take longer on that day.
Okay. That works with me.
Yeah, with her, with the, I guess maybe with her, I'll just discuss how the compensation can be. But I think if how long, like what year are you in now in the course?
I'm in I'm in first year.
Okay, yeah, and then you want to, I guess it's the end of the year until the end of the year, right?
Yeah. It's mostly I think most of my help will be around tests because that's what I struggle with the most with lab tests.
Yeah, and coming up. Okay,
So,
so what you need to do is then you need to do more practicals. Yeah, you need to practice more instead of like read the material. So you'd have to, I'd come up with maybe some material that tests you. What I would
okay.
need is the topics that you are going to be tested on, like the topics you guys have covered, the modules. And
Okay,
then
that's no problem.
yeah, and then the previous tests, so I can just have a look and feel of what you guys do, and then any material, like the material you use, because I think most of the things they test you on, they already provide guidance and teaching on. So if you
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
share the book and the test that's upcoming, or the ones that you you have done in the past that you didn't really like, because what that's going to help is we can test you again on it. And then even sometimes during the week I'll ask you to do something and return some, so that you don't lose momentum.
Okay.
By the time it's the weekend we're already on the same pace. And then at school, if you're covering a topic like this week, you say they did this and these were the activities, the class activity, and this is how I solved it. This is what I wanted to do. So let's just keep in close contact, share the material that
Okay.
you're learning with. I'll open the books and download them and read them. As soon as I've read them, then I'll be able to come up with tests for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I guess in terms of compensation, I'll talk to your mom like about it. But I did give a very, very, very low rate. I think no one charges that low. Yeah, I think for this session and yesterday's session in total it was 350. It was 700. So other people, because it's computer science, it's programming, they want to kill. Yeah, but yeah, I don't want to, I don't want it to hinder you learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll do that for you, and then I'll talk to your mom. You can just maybe encourage her that, hey man, I got 100%. I really want to finish the year, so let's do this. And then send the books. I'll be reading them.
Okay.
And
No
then
problem.
before I sleep, I think what I should do is send you a test. So I'll test you with something, and then before maybe you go into class tomorrow, you have to have submitted.
Okay.
So akulaleki, ne?
Eh,
No, but you must rest. If you don't rest, you're not gonna absorb the information.
yeah, I will rest. It's just, it's not like I'm only doing this exact module. I have other modules also. And the other modules I'm doing, it's second year. So it's a bit hectic.
Yeah. So with the other modules, what's the name of the other modules?
I'm
How are
doing
you performing?
economics. I'm doing economics and calculus with my other modules. So those
Okay.
are pretty good.
Okay. So yeah, in life, man, you just focus on your weaknesses because the ones that you're good at, you're already good at. So the ones that you're like, it's a SWOT analysis. So the ones where you're strong, it's okay, it's good. You keep up the good work. With the ones where you're weak, you need to spend more time on them. So you can just bring them up to the same level and get to a point where you're now actually, if possible, you're graded and they say go to third year. Yeah, like you've done enough, you've proved yourself enough. We see that you understand. Maybe they give you a second year test and you pass it. They say, you understand, bro. Let's go to third year.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll
you can
do
share
that
me the
then.
book, share me the books, and then the sort of the activities and the tests, and then I'll come up with something for you. I'll come up with
Sure.
something before you sleep. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. No problem.
Awesome. Because you see, like I just added you in my schedule, so I'm also gonna not be sleeping doing the work with you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So awesome. And then when you are passionate and you are putting in the work, it'll encourage me to keep up with like giving you the work. So we
Yeah.
just like, how when they're running races, there's when you practice with this other person, they are not in the lane, but they are running with you alongside you to just give you the pace. Yeah.
Okay. That's no
Yeah.
problem then.
Awesome. So I'll just be waiting for your email with the books and then I'll set up something for you before you sleep. I won't make it too late so that it doesn't drain you, but I have to go over the material.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ciao.